Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with me this evening. It is Saturday, May the 2nd, and it has been an absolutely beautiful day here in Chicago, Illinois. For those of you who are tuning in for the very first time, my name is Trevor Patrick Watkin, and I am a Chicago based flutist, of course. And I am broadcasting live from Access Contemporary School of Music here in Chicago. We have four locations. We have four locations throughout the city of Chicago. The one I am broadcasting here is the Ravenswood location, but we also have locations in Rogers Park, Avondale, South Loop, and did I say everything? Yeah, Ravenswood, Rogers Park, Avondale, and South Loop. Anyway, something else I need to let you know. I've mentioned before our founding executive director, Seth Bosted, was the host of Relevant Tones on WFMT, which of course is no longer on WFMT, but it is now a live stream. So I have put that information in the description box below. And you should definitely check it out. It was such a wonderful program, such a popular program, and it's back. And really give them your support. In fact, they did a live stream. Did a live stream yesterday, so have a look at that. Additionally, another little commercial. My wonderful friend Bill Gaines, who is responsible for all of the graphic design for this channel, all the thumbnail videos, all of that stuff, as well as just helping wrangle me and get me used to social media and everything that I'm supposed to be doing in order to get the word out about this channel, is having a show produced this evening. Pretty Katie Haroff and the Circle Dot Theater in San Diego is producing a show called The Corona Diaries Late Night Edition. And of course, as it is a late night show, this is best watched when the children have gone to bed already. It is starting at 9 p.m. Pacific time, so 11 Central, or wherever it may be, whatever time zone you might be watching from. But definitely head on over there. I've also put the link down there. It's going to be Facebook Live. But check that out. I'm really looking forward to watching it. I'm really excited that there is still live theater being produced, however, in whatever form that we can. So, anywho, before I talk about tonight's piece, I want to talk a little bit about tech stuff. Okay, so as I mentioned yesterday, every single show that I do, I try and sort of up my tech game a little bit more. So in the first 5 shows or so, I ran the audio externally. I had 2 speakers down here, and it did a serviceable job. But now I'm running all of my audio through OBS, and that's how I'm able to do like the little titles and stuff like that. But the one thing that I'm having difficulty with is because I'm running the sound through OBS on my laptop and I'm running the audio through my microphone, there's a 21 millisecond buffer between the two. And there is a buffer, there's an audio offset that's built into OBS, but it seems to be like the tech equivalent of the close door button on an elevator, where it just sort of decorative and doesn't really serve any purpose. Because over the last 2 days, I think I've tried like 100 different settings. I've gone all the way from 21 to 0 to 300 millisecond delay, and every single time it's different. So right now I'm still, and I know that nobody cares, but ultimately I would like to have it be where the audio is better synced up, especially tonight because there are 2 really fast movements, and so there really does need to be that precision there. So it's fine. But that's, if any of you knows anything about OBS out there, I'd really love your expertise. I've even tried booting OBS through terminal instead of just opening OBS directly. Nothing. So that's okay. Whatever. It's fine. Let's talk a little bit about this piece that I'm doing tonight. So as I mentioned last Saturday when I did the Quantz Concerto, I've decided that Saturdays I think I would like to do a larger masterwork. So as I mentioned, last Saturday was the Quantz Concerto in G major. Tonight, we're going back even further in time to the Baroque period, which is, now here's the thing. I can't pronounce this composer's last name. I'm messed up either way, because the actual pronunciation is Händel, but we know him as Händel. So either I have to say Händel and run the risk of somebody saying it's Händel, or saying Händel and run the risk of sounding pretentious. So pick the one that you like the best. He's the one that wrote it, and he's dead anyway, so it doesn't really matter. He's not here to watch it. This is going to be an interesting one for me. This is something I've never done before. By this I mean, Well, first of all, it's not technically not a flute sonata. In fact, not technically at all. It's not a flute sonata in A minor. It's actually a recorder sonata in A minor. However, the recorder, and I know everyone thinks of third grade, the recorder. It's a really noble instrument, and it is deceptively difficult, and it's a completely different instrument than the flute. But I'm playing it on flute anyway. However, what I'm doing, I mentioned rather unctuously last Saturday in my live stream that I want to be a good steward of the composer's intentions. And so obviously I'm not going to be playing this on a recorder. In fact, I can't even play it on the flutes that were around at that time. The Baroque flute would have been made of wood. It would have had only 6 holes and one key at the bottom. Instead, we have this complicated system of keys that gives us a very even scale throughout. And of course, because it's made of metal, it's going to be a lot brighter. It's going to project a lot more, whereas the wood is going to have a much more mellow sound. However, one thing I can do is nowadays what we call an A is 440 hertz, 440 cycles per second. However, even an A isn't an A because, yes, in the United States, 440 is the A, but in other countries, there's maybe 442, a little bit higher, 444, 446 higher still. In fact, 446 is nearing a B flat. So things that are written, the things that are played in countries where 446 is the standard A, they're gonna sound a lot brighter. And in fact, I can't even play things that are 446 on this flute because my flute can't play that sharp. However, the agreed upon standard A of the Baroque period, which was roughly the 17th century, is A415, significantly lower. In fact, 415 is closer to a G sharp. So everything from the Baroque period that's played on period instruments, it's going to sound a lot darker than it would sound if it were played on the modern A. And the way that I'm doing that tonight is, so when I need to adjust my tuning on the flute, like say if I'm too sharp, well then I can pull out my head joint a little bit. However, the more you pull it out, the more the instrument is actually going to go out of tune with itself. I am pulling out my head joint tonight about as far as it'll go without coming off completely. Now, what this does, though, what I discovered was, as I mentioned, the Baroque flute had, 6 holes and 1 key, and so the scale wasn't anywhere near as even as the modern flute is today. There were just some notes that were out of tune, but that was part of the character of the instrument, and composers made allowances for that. In fact, I mentioned last Saturday that Mozart really didn't like the flute very much. That was why, actually. That was one of the reasons why. So because my flute has now been rendered out of tune with itself, it has, I don't want to use the word deadened, but it has sort of muted the metal, the metallic sound of the flute. There's no way that I'm going to approximate the sound of the wood. However, what I'm going to do is certainly closer than it would be than if I played it on modern tuning with my flute pushed in appropriately. Additionally, when you play the music of the Baroque, you're not going to use tons and tons of vibrato. When I say vibrato, I mean that's a normal part of playing expressively on the flute, but in the Baroque period, you just wouldn't do that. You either would use either no vibrato at all, or if you used vibrato, you would use it very strategically. Additionally, what I think is interesting about the Baroque period is it's a little bit like jazz, in that when you play jazz, you're expected to embellish. You're expected to improvise, of course. And you're just supposed to know what to do. And I mentioned in my Jethro Tull video, maybe it was, it was the Claude Bowling video, jazzers can smell a phony a mile away. And the same is true for people who are early music specialists. So having said that, I am not for 1 minute proclaiming myself to be an early music expert. I am enthusiastic, but this is going to be the closest approximation I can give. So without further ado, and look at me, I'm actually remembering to put in my headphones. This is Händel, whatever, pick a name. This is his, technically, recorder sonata in A minor. And that was, well, we'll just call him George. That was his recorder slash flute sonata in A slash G sharp minor, depending on if you have perfect pitch or not. Anyway, yeah, that was fun. Let me know what you think. I'm curious because I'm kind of in my own head here, and this is, of course, the first time I've ever done anything like this before. With pulled all the way out, and I don't know. I really dig this piece. Obviously, for those of you who heard the concerto last Saturday and who've listened tonight, obviously being a showboat is very different whether you're in the Baroque period or in the classical period. Just two very stylistic differences. Both showboat pieces, but for me, classical is about like the spectacle, and then, I don't know, Baroque pieces to me feel like kind of like an exquisite machine that's full of like little tiny parts. That's what it is for me. And as I mentioned, I'm not at all an early music expert or specialist even. And so every time I learn a new piece from the Baroque period, it's another opportunity to grow as a musician in my interpretation. And of course, I'm very open to suggestions. So speaking of which, if you haven't said hello in the chat already, please do. I'm going to level with you again. I actually have it on my, because I've been really focusing on looking in the camera. So I actually have the video feed and everything like hidden on my screen as much as possible, so I can only see what I have to see. One of these days I will get to the point where I can actually like do more, I can walk and chew gum at the same time. Anyway, I hope that you will tune in tomorrow, and I'm actually blanking on what tomorrow, oh yeah, tomorrow is actually my own music. The music that you hear, not in the very beginning of the feed, but during my like opening monologue or whatever. That's actually from a show that I wrote the music for. It was the Right Brain Project's production of Salome in 2014. And tomorrow I'm going to be playing two pieces from that show. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. In fact, I recorded new backing tracks for them 2 nights ago, and then I edited them together last night. So they're actually not the track. I mean, it's exactly what was in the show, but the backing tracks are going to be a little bit different than they were for the show. So anyway, as always, thank you very much for being here and letting me play for you. This has just been fantastic for me, and I hope it's been good for you too, because you're what it's all about. This is what I want to do, and I want to do this every day, and I'm going to do it every day. And so if you wish, it'd be wonderful if you've enjoyed what you've heard tonight, do consider subscribing. There is a Flute logo in the bottom right corner of the screen. You can just click on that and subscribe. By all means, you do not have to. I really don't like it when people feel pressured to subscribe. And if you do subscribe, though, make sure you hit the bell to get reminders, because you'll get reminders on when I'm going live next. And of course, I'm going live next tomorrow at Central Daylight Time, and I really hope to see you there. Thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.